Today, we're diving into one of ancient history's most epic moments, the dedication of Solomon's temple. It was this incredible high point of unity and glory for an entire nation. But there's a powerful twist to this story that changes everything.
What if the story of this massive, triumphant celebration was actually written from the absolute lowest point of despair? I mean, that's the paradox right at the heart of this account, and it's what makes it so unbelievably powerful.
You see, the person who wrote this story, they weren't actually there. They were writing hundreds of years later, as a refugee, an exile in Babylon. And that glorious temple they were describing in such vivid detail, well, in their time, it was just a pile of rubble back home. So this isn't just a history lesson, it's a memory. It's a story of profound joy being told from a time of unimaginable sorrow. So let's start there. To really get this, we have to understand the author's world, because this entire story is being told through this lens of loss and memory.
This slide just lays it all out, and the contrast is, wow. On the left, you've got the author's reality: defeat, exile, a scattered people, and a destroyed temple. But look at the story they chose to tell. The one on the right. It's all about victory, unity, a glorious dedication, a nation gathered together. So you realize writing this down wasn't just about recording the past, it was an act of defiant hope for the future.
Okay, so now let's jump into the event itself. It all begins with the most solemn, the most awe-inspiring part of the whole dedication ceremony.
Okay, so try to picture this scene. You have the Ark of the Covenant, which is the most sacred object in all of Israel, and it's being carried in this huge procession up to the brand new temple. As the priests carry it into the inner sanctum, the most holy place, something just incredible happens. A thick, heavy cloud just fills the entire building.
The cloud was so thick, so potent with the glory of the Lord, that the priests literally couldn't even stand up to do their jobs. I mean, this was a visible, tangible sign of God's presence, of His approval. But it was also something else.
And here is the key connection. This moment is a direct callback, a perfect mirror of what happened with Moses back in the wilderness when that exact same glorious cloud filled the original tabernacle. It was basically God's way of saying, yep, this new place, this permanent house, this is my home now.
So, with God's presence totally confirmed, King Solomon steps forward. And what he does next isn't just a prayer. It's a conversation that just echoes through centuries.
Solomon gets on his knees, and he delivers this incredibly long, detailed prayer. And he asks for blessings, sure, but he asks for mercy even more. It's like he anticipates all the future ways his people might mess up: drought, famine, plague, being defeated in battle, and he asks God to hear them whenever they turn back and pray toward this temple.
And then, he says this. He specifically prays for a future generation that's been captured and carried off to the land of the enemy. He asks that if those exiles, far from home, would just repent and pray towards the land, towards the city, and towards this temple, that God would hear them from heaven and forgive them.
Now just let that sink in for a second. The person writing this down, our author, sitting in Babylon hundreds of years later, they aren't just copying down some old prayer from a history book. This slide says it perfectly. They were living this prayer. They were writing down the very promise they were desperately clinging to for their own survival. At that moment, they were the exiles, praying towards a ruined temple, hoping with everything they had that Solomon's prayer was heard. It's an absolutely heartbreaking and beautiful connection. But right after that deeply emotional, solemn prayer, the mood shifts dramatically. The whole ceremony climaxes in what you can really only describe as the greatest barbecue in history.
So first, get a load of this number. Solomon and the people offered 22,000 oxen. 22,000. Just let that scale sink in for a minute. But oh, they were not done.
They also offered 120,000 sheep. I mean, these numbers are just staggering. So you have to ask, why so many? Well, it wasn't just about the smoke rising to heaven. It was about what happened next with all that meat.
And here's the crucial detail. These were mostly peace offerings. Now, with a peace offering, only a small part of the animal was actually burned on the altar. The rest of the meat, it was given back to the people to be cooked and shared in a gigantic community-wide feast.
And when I say feast, I mean a feast. This wasn't a one-afternoon party. The celebration went on for 2 full weeks. You had 7 days for the dedication, and then it rolled right into another 7 days for the annual festival, all of it fueled by this unbelievable amount of food. In fact, There was so much food and so many people that the main bronze altar just wasn't big enough to handle it all. They actually had to consecrate the entire main courtyard of the temple just to create a big enough barbecue pit for the whole nation. Can you even imagine that?
So what does this all mean? What does this ancient story, this memory written down in exile, actually teach us? Well, it offers a surprisingly relevant blueprint for what makes any community, anywhere, really thrive.
You see, the real high point of this whole event wasn't just the moment the cloud filled the temple, or even Solomon's amazing prayer. It was the seamless blend of sacred awe and social joy. It was that combination of solemn, holy worship followed immediately by a loud, happy, and radically inclusive party.
And here's the result. After 2 weeks of this, the people didn't go home just feeling tired or like they'd done their duty. The text says they went home joyful and glad in heart. That spiritual experience wasn't just confined to the temple walls. It translated into genuine happiness that they carried back with them into their everyday lives.
So here it is. Here's the blueprint the story gives us. It seems like a thriving community, whether it's ancient or modern, needs these 3 ingredients. You need those moments of shared sacred awe. You need to follow those moments up with joyful communal celebration. Eating together, laughing together. And finally, that celebration has to be radically inclusive, where everyone is invited to the feast.
It's just this powerful model of connection, written down as a memory of a perfect day by someone who had lost everything. And it leaves us with a pretty important question to think about in our own lives. How can we do a better job of blending the sacred and the social to build communities that don't just survive, but that really and truly thrive?